In this video, I am going to walk you through the general steps of drawing this piece of illustration on Procreate iPad, which was published as a series of YouTube real-time drawing videos on my channel. For those who love tips and tricks, you're in the right spot. Let's get to work. So this is the final result of my original drawing. So I'm just gonna try my best to retrace what I did with some explanation. At any point, if you have any questions, feel free to just leave me a comment. So we're gonna get started by creating a new layer. You can just hit the layers panel and tap on plus. And I'm gonna try my best to be similar to the original. So I'm gonna sample the color over here. And I will choose a brush that is relatively texture rich. What I mean by that is when I draw a line on screen, you can see like not everything is like super flat. You can see the variation of the value of the color. So I really enjoy the texture because even if this whole background pretty much has the same color, you can still tell a bit of variation. So I think that really helps to bring the illustration to life. So I'm just gonna start the process with a nice brush. By the way, if you're interested, you can pick up this set of brush in my shop. I believe it's acrylic gouache. And this particular one is called Soft Filbert, which mimics the look and feel of the filbert brush that has the round tip. So once you have a pretty solid ground, I'm gonna add a bit of pattern on top of that so that it doesn't look too boring or uniform. So what I'm gonna do is to create a second layer on top of the first one and switch the color to a lighter, maybe this white. You can stick with the same brush, but I'm gonna choose a different brush from the same set that it's called Spotty Wildcard. You will see what I mean in a minute. So I'm gonna draw parallel lines. As you can see, it's very texture-y, very texture rich. But if this is too much, you can try something else. Maybe I'm gonna do this snappy filbert and make it a little bit smaller. So this one appears to be a little dry intentionally to create more painterly texture. If you don't want to be too careful in your line, you can set this one, this grid as clipping mask on top of the blue background. So what this one does is that even if you draw from like way over the boundary, it will only show the overlapped area. You don't have to pay too much attention to the control. Right. So now we have a background. I'm gonna create a new layer for the mug. So this time I'm gonna sample the yellow color. Feel free to choose different colors. You don't have to stick with the exact same. I believe the original color is a little bit brighter. So what I'm gonna do is to click on the color dot and I will increase the saturation and increase the brightness a little bit so we have a little more contrast. I know if you have prior experience with Procreate, you're probably thinking, oh man, we should probably just use the color drop. That will save you like 10 minutes of drawing time. Yes and no. So here's what I think. Using color drop can certainly save you a lot of time. What I mean by that is that you can draw an enclosed shape and then just sample the color and drop it. And it will give you a very filled, flat area. What's so good about this is that it's very fast and efficient, but also it's limited in terms of how much texture you can incorporate. Of course, you can create several layers on top of the original layers to add texture, but in my opinion, it kind of loses the charm of the painterly look, which I really treasure. But if your style is more like glossy and flat, I think color drop is going to be your friend. So I'm not filling in every possible corner. Wow, I think I just made a mistake of drawing this on the same layer. I'm just gonna quickly get rid of this part. Okay, great. So as you can see, I'm not filling every bit, every pixel that there is in this area so that you can still kind of see through. I feel like that really adds charm and personality to your drawing. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on the texture itself. I'm just introducing the general steps. Next step, I'm gonna add this handle of the mug. So I'm gonna create a layer underneath the yellow shape. So hit plus, and then sample this bright orange. I'm just long pressing on screen. I think it's a little bit brighter. And then I'm gonna just draw almost like when you're writing 3, but make the loop a little more bandy and intentional. Let's see. Something like that. So now we have the general shape of the handle. I'm gonna add a bit of shadow. Anytime you want to change color after you have laid down a shape already, I like to use the adjustment, hue, saturation, and brightness. There are different ways of doing it, but this is what I really like. So I'm gonna change the brightness and then the saturation. So the color looks a little more bright. And then tap on screen and hit apply. So, and then I'm gonna create another layer on top of my handle and then change it to the clipping mask. So now we have a clipping mask on top of the handle. So what's so good about this is that even if you draw outside, it will only show the overlapped area. So you can go a little easy on yourself. You don't have to be super precise. I'm gonna just draw over here. So now we have shadow. The next step, I'm actually gonna choose the mug layer. I'm gonna right swipe all the layer that involves the mug and then hit selection tool to move it up. Whoops, to move it up a little bit so it's not like sitting right at the edge. And now I am going to draw this line around the rim. So I'm going to create a layer on top, and I will use my own fine liners shape, fine liner brush. This one is called Melted Butter. It has, actually I'm going to use the Ziggy Zaggy here. As you can see, if I make it bigger, this one create a solid line for sure, but also has a pretty nice texture. So I'm gonna just lower the size and then just draw a line like, whoops, still too big. And then just draw a line like that. And then just draw a line like that. Perfect. And I'm gonna use the same brush, but switch it to white color. So once the line is done, I'm gonna create a new layer underneath for the flowers. So I'm really just freehanding over here. And then I will use the color drop and pretty much just fill up the space. Maybe with a smaller one. It's kind of awkward. I want to make sure the shape is completely enclosed. In that way, when I do color drop, it can fill the shape instead of the whole canvas. In this case, I don't fill it out manually. Instead, I use a color drop because I don't really need the texture in the belly of the shape, if that makes sense. All right. And then I'm gonna finish up with the last one. If you want to move the placement of your flower or any element on the layer, make sure you have the layer selected and then tap on the ribbon tool, and then make sure you have the freehand selected, and then you can just draw a very rough line around it and then hit the selection tool, rescale the corner, and then you can even rotate it to fit your preference. All right, so now we have everything pretty much, and I'm gonna start a new layer for my toothbrush. So I'm gonna choose, looks like it's kind of like chocolate color. So something like this maybe. Right now I'm still using my fine liner brush. So I'm just gonna draw a line. So without lifting my pencil, the line will snap into a straight line. So that's really nice. And then I'm just gonna draw the other side. It wobbles a little, that's okay. That kind of fit the style of this particular illustration. I'm just gonna erase parts of it, and the bottom part of it too. All right. Now I'm gonna draw the bristles. The bristles is, it should be underneath the toothbrush, but right now I have it above. So I'm gonna hold my layer with my finger and then just put it at the bottom. It's kind of hard to see because the background is also white. So what I'm gonna do is create a layer at the bottom and then color it with this like rosy light pink. So I'm just gonna use my filbert brush, maybe make the diameter a little bit bigger. In that way, we can elevate the background a little bit more. All right, much better. So now if we go back to our bristles layer and then switch to white when we draw, woo, go back to the other fine liner brush. So I'm gonna go to recent and then find the zigzaggy. And you can create the brush, the bristle. To make it stand out even more, I'm gonna add some symbolic bristles, like a colored bristles. So now you can see, you can tell it's clearly a toothbrush. All right. Maybe I should make this a little bit bigger. It looks like this tangent kind of create a awkward space. So I'm just gonna select all my toothbrush portion and then move it up a little bit. And I will extend this portion. So sample the color by long pressing and then just draw the remaining part. All right, perfect. Whoops. Just gonna erase tiny bit over here. All right, this is pretty much what I had. I think the final touch is the kind of like the noisy background. There's like little sprinkles here and there. So what I did was to pick a color that has a pretty nice contrast. In this case, a light blue, and then use my brush that's called Gentle Speckles. It's a whole set with different varieties. So I'm just gonna choose one of them. This one is called Gentle Speckles Drizzle. So this one is pretty light. So I'm just gonna tap it, maybe close, reduce the size of the brush and tap it a couple more times. So the speckles may land on different colors. Some will give you good contrast, others may not. So feel free to change the blending mode, which is on your layer, you tap N, and then you can just scroll through the list. I think multiply is a pretty good option here. So that's pretty much how I created this illustration. I hope you enjoy learning, and if you're interested in watching the original video, here's the link. If you like my teaching style, I have close to 30 illustration classes on Skillshare. So grab your free trial link in the description today to kickstart your creative journey. All right, I'll see you in the next video.